You wake up tomorrow morning, reach for your phone like you do every single day and tap the screen. But instead of the familiar glow of notifications, messages, and updates, you're met with nothing. Just error messages? You try to refresh? Nothing. You switch to Wi-Fi. Dead. You check your laptop, your tablet, every device you own. All of them display the same haunting message. No connection available. You think it's just your internet provider, maybe a router issue, so you step outside to ask a neighbor. But what you see stops you cold. Everyone on your street is standing in their doorways, phones in hand, the same confused and worried expression on their faces. Car radios aren't streaming, smart home systems are frozen. And then it hits you like a punch to the gut. This isn't just your house. This isn't just your neighborhood. The entire internet has gone dark. Every photograph you've ever taken and stored in the cloud vanished. Every conversation you've had over the past decade erased. Your bank account information, your work files, your children's baby videos, your grandmother's voice in that last video call, all of it exists in a digital void that you can no longer access. Within hours, the realization spreads across the globe like wildfire. 5 billion people simultaneously cut off from the digital world they've built their entire lives around. No social media, no email, no GPS, no streaming services, no online banking. The internet, the single most important invention of the modern age, has forgotten everything. And here's the truly terrifying part. This isn't some far-fetched Hollywood fantasy. The infrastructure that holds our digital world together is far more fragile than anyone wants to admit, and we're dancing on the edge of collapse every single day without even knowing it. Now I know what you're thinking. The internet is everywhere, it's resilient, it's backed up. How could something so massive just disappear? But that's exactly the dangerous assumption that leaves us vulnerable. Right now, as you watch this video, there are 5 billion people using the internet, sending 333 billion emails every single day, streaming 1 billion hours of video, conducting trillions of dollars in financial transactions, all flowing through a network that most people imagine as this indestructible cloud floating somewhere above us. But the truth is, the internet isn't a cloud at all. It's an incredibly complex web of physical servers, undersea cables thinner than your arm carrying 99% of international data, massive data centers consuming as much electricity as small countries, and satellite networks that can be disrupted by something as simple as a solar storm. We've built our entire civilization on top of a foundation that could crack at any moment. And unlike the apocalyptic scenarios you see in movies with zombies or nuclear war, a digital collapse would be silent, invisible, and devastatingly effective at bringing modern society to its knees within 72 hours. Here's what makes this different from every other doomsday scenario you've heard about. When we think about the apocalypse, we imagine something physical, something we can see coming. We picture burning cities, natural disasters, things our ancestors would recognize as catastrophic. But a digital apocalypse is uniquely modern and uniquely terrifying because it attacks the one thing we've all become completely dependent on, but can't actually see or touch. Think about your day yesterday. How many times did you rely on the internet? Your alarm clock synced to the network, your morning news delivered through apps, your coffee paid for with a tap of your phone, your work existing entirely in cloud-based systems, your communication with loved ones happening through messaging apps, your evening entertainment streamed on demand, your home temperature controlled by smart systems, even your car's navigation telling you how to avoid traffic. Now imagine all of that gone, not for an hour or a day, but potentially forever. The data, the connections, the digital memories of your entire life wiped clean as if they never existed. By the end of this video, you're going to understand 3 critical things that could save your life and the lives of people you care about. First, the realistic ways this digital collapse could actually happen, and trust me, some of these scenarios are already unfolding in slow motion right now. Second, what the first 72 hours of a complete internet blackout would look like, hour by hour, and how quickly our comfortable modern world would descend into chaos. And third, the most important part, the practical survival strategies you can implement right now, today, before it's too late, to protect yourself, your family, and your most precious memories from being erased forever. Because here's the thing, preparing for digital collapse doesn't mean building a bunker or becoming a doomsday prepper. It means taking simple, practical steps that our grandparents would have called common sense, but that we've completely forgotten in just one generation of smartphone dependence. So let's dive into the reality that tech companies don't want you thinking about, that governments are quietly preparing for, and that could change everything about the way we live, potentially in our lifetime. This is what happens when the internet forgets everything. Let's talk about the nightmare scenarios that keep cybersecurity experts awake at night, the vulnerabilities in our digital infrastructure that most people have no idea even exist. First, there's the solar storm threat, and this isn't science fiction. In 1859, something called the Carrington event occurred, a massive solar flare that hit Earth and fried telegraph systems across 2 continents. Operators reported sparks flying from their equipment, paper catching fire, and some telegraph systems continued working even after being disconnected from their power sources. Now imagine that same event happening today. Scientists estimate we'd have maybe 18 hours of warning before a solar storm of that magnitude would hit our planet and potentially destroy transformers, satellites, and electrical grids worldwide. The electromagnetic pulse would render countless electronic devices useless instantly. But it gets worse. We don't even need something from space to take us down. Right now, 99% of international internet traffic flows through approximately 400 undersea fiber optic cables. These cables, many no thicker than a garden hose, lie on the ocean floor completely exposed. In 2008, several cables near Egypt were accidentally cut by ship anchors, and it disrupted internet access for millions across the Middle East and India for weeks. Now imagine a coordinated attack specifically targeting these cables, or a major seismic event severing multiple lines simultaneously. Then there's the cascade failure scenario. Modern data centers, the physical buildings where all your cloud data actually lives, are concentrated in specific geographic regions. Amazon Web Services alone host nearly a third of the internet. When AWS experienced a major outage in 2017, it took down Netflix, Spotify, Slack, and thousands of other services that millions of people rely on daily. Let me walk you through what the first 3 days of complete digital collapse would actually look like. And I want you to really picture yourself in this scenario. In the first 6 hours, most people would assume it's just a temporary glitch. You'd probably restart your phone a few times, maybe reset your router, and complain about your internet provider. But then you'd notice something terrifying. The ATMs aren't working. You can't access your bank account. The gas station won't accept your credit card. The grocery store's registers are frozen because modern point-of-sale systems require internet connectivity to process any payment. Even cash registers won't open because they're electronically controlled. People would rush to stores hoping to buy supplies, but without working payment systems, most transactions would simply stop. The few places accepting cash would be overwhelmed within hours. Emergency services would be crippled because 911 dispatch systems rely on computer networks. Hospitals would lose access to patient records, medication databases, and the systems that coordinate everything from surgery schedules to prescription fulfillments. As we move into hours 6 through 24, panic truly sets in. Supply chains, which operate on just-in-time delivery systems guided by GPS and internet-connected logistics software, would completely collapse. Trucks carrying food to grocery stores wouldn't know where to go. Drivers couldn't navigate without GPS. Warehouses couldn't coordinate shipments. Within 24 hours, store shelves would start looking empty. Now we're in the 24 to 72-hour window, and this is where society starts fundamentally breaking down. Power grids begin failing because modern electrical systems use internet protocols to balance loads and coordinate distribution. Now let's talk about what disappears forever when the internet forgets everything. Because this goes so much deeper than just losing access to social media for a few days. Think about every photograph you've taken in the last 5 years. Where are they stored? If you're like most people, they're on your phone, automatically backed up to the cloud, maybe on Google Photos or iCloud. Now imagine every single one of those images gone. Your child's first steps, your wedding day, that last vacation with your parents, the random Tuesday afternoon that seemed ordinary, but now you'd give anything to remember clearly. All of it erased, but it's not just personal memories. We're talking about the complete loss of humanity's digital knowledge repository. Wikipedia contains over 60 million articles in hundreds of languages. Academic databases hold millions of research papers, scientific studies, medical breakthroughs, and historical records that exist nowhere else. Entire libraries have been digitized and the physical copies destroyed to save space. Music that was only released digitally, independent films distributed through streaming platforms, digital art, podcasts, online journalism covering the last 2 decades of human history, it all vanishes. The economic devastation would be unimaginable. Every cryptocurrency, representing trillions of dollars in value, would simply cease to exist. Banking records determining who owns what, who owes whom, the entire financial system's memory gone. Property records, business contracts, stock ownership documentation. If it only existed digitally, it's now impossible to verify or prove. Think about trying to establish your own identity without digital records. How do you prove you own your house? Where's your mortgage documentation? What about your college degree, your employment history, your medical records showing your blood type and allergies? Here's the critical part, the practical actions you can take right now to protect yourself and your family from digital collapse. And I want to be clear, this isn't about paranoia or living in fear. This is about basic preparedness that used to be common sense. First, create physical backups of everything truly important. I mean, literally print out your most precious photos and store them in waterproof containers. Print your important documents, birth certificates, insurance policies, property deeds, medical records, prescription information, and keep physical copies in a fireproof safe. Write down every important phone number you'd need in an emergency because you won't have your contacts list. Create a family emergency plan on paper with meeting locations and backup communication strategies. Next, build financial resilience. Keep at least 2 weeks' worth of cash at home in small bills. I know this sounds old-fashioned, but when digital payment systems fail, physical currency becomes the only thing with immediate value. Stock up on essential supplies, a 30-day supply of non-perishable food, water purification methods, medications you depend on, basic first aid supplies, batteries, flashlights, and a hand-crank radio. Learn analog skills that don't require technology. Can you read a physical map? Do you know how to navigate using a compass? Can you cook meals from basic ingredients without looking up recipes online? These sound like simple things, but an entire generation has grown up completely dependent on instant digital access to information. Buy physical reference books covering basic skills, first aid, edible plants, home repair, gardening. Knowledge locked in your head or on paper can't be deleted. Now, I want to end on something that might surprise you, because despite everything we've talked about, a digital collapse isn't entirely catastrophic. There's actually a strange silver lining hidden in this apocalyptic scenario. Imagine a world where you're forced to disconnect from the constant bombardment of notifications, social media anxiety, and digital distraction. Studies show that the average person checks their phone 96 times per day and spends nearly 7 hours on screens. A digital collapse would force an immediate and complete digital detox for the entire planet. People would be compelled to have actual face-to-face conversations, to build real relationships with their physical neighbors, to rediscover hobbies that don't involve screens. Communities would strengthen out of necessity. You'd need to know your neighbors when you can't order everything online or call for help with an app. Local economies would revive as people would be forced to shop at nearby stores, trade skills, and support each other directly. There's also an environmental benefit that's hard to ignore. Data centers currently consume about 1% of global electricity, and that percentage is growing rapidly. The energy required to stream video, process cryptocurrencies, and store endless data in the cloud contributes significantly to carbon emissions. A reset would give the planet a chance to breathe. Perhaps most importantly, we'd have an opportunity to rebuild our digital infrastructure more thoughtfully, creating decentralized systems that can't be taken down by single points of failure, prioritizing privacy and security over convenience and profit. Maybe we'd build an internet that serves humanity rather than one that humanity serves. So here we are. Everything we've discussed, the solar storms, infrastructure failures, cascading chaos, it's all real. But this isn't about living in fear. It's about waking up to our dangerous dependence on systems we can't control. Your great-grandparents didn't need survival guides because they had built-in resilience, skills, community, and common sense we've completely forgotten in just 2 generations. Start small, but start today. Print your most precious photos. Write down emergency contacts. Keep some cash at home. Learn one analog skill. Have one conversation with your family about meeting points if communications fail. These tiny actions compound into real security. The internet has given us everything, but it could take it all away in an instant. The question isn't if you'll survive digital disruption, it's whether you'll be ready. What would you miss most if everything disappeared tomorrow? Tell me in the comments while you still can. Stay prepared.